gonna do one of my absolute favorite hairstyles, and it's going to be a super effortless low updo. I've already dry shampooed Izzy's hair and prepped it like I've previously mentioned. So with this hairstyle, you have a few options of if you want to tease individual pieces and curl, or if you want to tease the whole section. I'm gonna go ahead and tease the whole section just to kind of make it easier on us. Throw some texture powder in here. Give it a little tease. Now, you do not need extensions for this hairstyle, but Izzy's hair is a little bit shorter, so I wanted a little bit of length, but I am going to show you how to stuff this hairstyle too, which isn't necessary because she has extensions, but it is helpful to know. So I went ahead and teased at the base of Izzy's hair. I'm going to spray her with the heat protectant, follow up with my working spray. I'm going to use my crimper on a medium setting, and I'm going to start picking up small sections, crimp that tease, and quickly press down. We're just doing a really quick crimp. I'm picking up pieces that I'm going to curl, just quickly crimping them. I did this through this bottom section, but I'm not going to do it at the very, very top because I don't want any crimping to come through in professional photography. Okay, so as you can see, I have the separate sections of the curls. So I'm going to start with this one right here. I'm going to add just a little bit more working spray. I'm going to lay down any hair that's sticking up, press it down with the iron, and then I'm going to do the wrap feed-in method. So I'm going to lift the curl off the scalp and curl it. I'm going to walk around the whole head so you guys should be able to see. I'm going to let this sit for a minute, then drop it, hold it, and pull it in. So same thing. I'm going to take the next one, run the iron over it. If it's not really wet from the product anymore, go ahead and give it a little spray. And then I'm going to curl this one the opposite direction that I curled the last one. And this is going to give a lot of movement into this hairstyle. Now this hairstyle does take a bit more time. There are shortcuts to get through it. Most of my brides, I schedule their hair for an hour, depending on what hairstyle they have. This is one of the hairstyles that would take me a little bit longer to perfect. Like I said, it can be done in a shorter amount of time if it needed to be. It just wouldn't be as perfect. So I'll wrap this. And I'm going to continue doing that through this back section. Now when I get to this front area by the ears, I will treat it a little differently. I'm going to split these in diagonal sections as well. I'm not going to crimp them. I'm going to spray, put a little texture powder, get a little tease. And for this front section of curls, I like to do the pulled forward beachy curls. Now I'm not going to make it as beachy as I did in the curl examples, but just a little bit. So these can stretch longer going backwards. And around the face, I make sure the hair is always going away from the face. Back here is where I alternate the curls. So I'm going to continue doing this up the head. Now, as I'm working and curling up the head, I'm going to go ahead and spray some of this Sexy Hair Play Dirty. It's a spray wax on the curls. As I'm once I finish them, I'm going to spray it down because you want that hair cuticle to lay down. So I'm just going to spray this down. On the hair like so. I'm going to drop down a little bit more of this top section. We're moving in this sort of pattern, like an A down. I want these curls to be very, very curled, so I'm gonna work in very small sections walking up the top of the head. Gonna put the texture powder at the roots. This doesn't need to be a crazy perfect tease because it is going to be have a lot of movement in it. So we don't want too much perfect structure or form to the tease. We just want some in there to give that lift and less done look. On the sides, I like to tease horizontally. And we're not gonna crimp this time. We're gonna go ahead and take our heat protectant. Now, if their hair really, really doesn't hold a curl, you can crimp this section very carefully. But I also would use the working spray on each individual curl section. This front section, we're gonna pull forward towards the face and give it more of a beachy curl. And now in this top section, I'm gonna do it just a little bit different than I did the other curls. So I don't want to follow a form here. This is where we start turning artistic with our piece choicing. So I'm just gonna push the hair up and around and notice like where the hair separates. So I'm gonna take different size curls. They're not gonna be formed. They're not gonna be like, here's a vertical section, here's a rectangle section. This is all visual and creating movement. So I'm gonna take this piece here at an angle and I'm gonna wand curl it the other way. And then I'm gonna pick another piece. It does not have to be in any certain shape, any certain layer. I'm just trying to make them all different, not too formed. Kind of like a natural curl pattern would be. A natural curl pattern doesn't fall in straight lines. It moves and flows. And so that's kind of what you're trying to create in this top section. So I like to take even little teeny tiny sections from the top like this. And I'm alternating which direction I go. And this is just creating so much movement through this hairstyle. All right, we got Izzy completely curled. So many curls. This is kind of what she's looking like right now. And now we're gonna make it pretty. I tell all my clients you have to get ugly to get pretty. So I'm just gonna spray her down really good with this Play Dirty. This is gonna help with frizz before I get into it. I'm gonna put some silkening oil in my hands, which this is from Aquage. I love it. And then I'm also gonna put a little bit of this Kenra Veil Styling Cream. And then rub that in as well. It's my little cocktail I make. And I'm gonna start running this through the ends of her hair. And once I feel like I got a good bit on her actual hair strands, I'll go ahead and I'll brush through this. Now, you don't want to brush through it before you run product through it, because the more you rough up that cuticle while brushing it, the more frizzy it can get. So I wanted to go ahead and get a base of product on before I come through and brush it out. And I'm not going to fully brush this out. I'm just going to kind of touch the surface a little bit, especially in this top layer. This top layer needs brushed out, but when it comes to all this interior, I'm not going to brush through it. I'm just going to kind of skim over the surface. Now with this top layer, I always go through and do a lot of shaking and movement to see what the hair wants to do. I am a very, very visual hairstylist, so seeing the movement is a lot easier for me if I see the movement. So when I shake it and move it around, I can kind of play around with where she needs to be. From here, we're gonna actually start building our hairstyle. We are creating a very soft, low curly updo. I mean, honestly, if you see those Pinterest looks all the time where they're just seem so effortlessly put up. Obviously, you could pick up all the hair like this and pin it up, but it's going to be very heavy and most likely fall. I'm going to show you how to create a good foundation for building these effortless hairstyles. Okay, so I've already separated from her ears forward and the crown. I do not do a perfect part when I separate the ears forward. I kind of zigzag it, because the whole point of this is being super effortless. I'm gonna take a rubber band. It could be blonde if you needed it to be, but it doesn't matter. It's gonna be hidden anyways. This is gonna be our foundation that holds up our whole hairstyle. Now for effortless looks, I like to leave out a little bit of the hairline at an angle like that on both sides. And then you're going to start your foundation where you want your updo. Where you put this is basically gonna be the exact placement of your updo. Now I want a really low bun today, so I'm gonna keep this really low, but if you have a client who wants that updo up off their neck, just make your foundation higher. So I'm going to go ahead and do mine low. I'm just going to create a little ponytail, like so. Now, if you did not have a client who has a lot of hair or who has extensions, I do this in a lot of people. So if Izzy did not have extensions in her hair, I would definitely do this. So what I do is I cut a hair donut into, like I cut it and I unroll it so I can manipulate this myself. So I stretch it out and I wrap it around my hand like so, and then I create a little padding above the ponytail. So I'm gonna go ahead and secure this in the hair, but I'm not gonna leave it in the hair because I don't need it to complete the hairstyle. I use stuffing in about 75% of the updos I do, unless somebody has a crazy amount of hair. So it always gives me just an extra, like a cushion to pin into. So from here, you would use your ponytail to cover your bun and then start pinning into it. But like I said, we don't need this. And we're gonna secure this. Now this is very heavy because it is extensions. Now the heavier of a section you're working with, the more rubber bands you need. And it's really that simple. So I'm gonna twist this. I'm gonna rubber band this. It's not very long. I went about like, is that like a third of the way? I usually do the twist about 2 times. I'm gonna pull this out a little bit and wrap it up and then pin that rubber band into the scalp. These are roller pins. So the more hair you have, the bigger bobby pin you need. So I'm gonna take this roller pin, I'm gonna attach it to that tiny rubber band and then push that into the big rubber band. And it's up. I'm gonna take a little bobby pin and I'm going to cross that bobby pin just to make sure it's locked and secure. So let me show you. Let me use blonde ones so you guys don't think I'm that ratchet. I am aware she's blonde. Okay, so when you have your 2 bobby pins, one's going on the scalp. I personally, everybody goes back and forth about this, like the bumpy part towards the scalp, but I don't obsess about it. Like if it goes the other way, it goes the other way, it's fine. But normally I try to put the bumpy part towards the scalp and then I come back through. So this is my secured one. I come through the opposite direction in the hairstyle to make sure those are locked together, and you will feel them locked together. And while I'm pinning, making my foundation, I am always shooting for that big rubber band I have in there because that's holding everything up. So I'm gonna do the same thing again. I'm gonna take this hair that she has left and twist it. And actually I'm gonna just leave some little stray hairs like these out because I may want to use them for something later. I'm not going to secure all the way to the end because I might want to use that hair later. And I'm just going to pull this into that last loop I made. It does not need to be exactly like this. This is what I needed to do to get all of Izzy's specific hair up off of her neck. But that is my foundation. This is what I'm pinning into. I'm gonna leave lots hanging as I work through this hairstyle, and then I'll decide at the end what I wanna leave and what looks good. Now, how I test my foundation is, Izzy, give me a good shake. As long as nothing in that fell, you're good to go. Okay, all I did was unclip the top section, And I'm taking just a little bit of Kenra's texturizing taffy on my hands. This is gonna help with frizz as in texture as I move through this top little section of her head. So the front of the hair is what really matters, guys. That's what everybody cares about. I will preach it over and over and over again on how you need to be more mindful about the front of the hairstyle than you are the back, which the back is beautiful. It's your Instagram pictures, it's your portfolio. But if you want somebody to love their hair, you need to make sure it looks perfect from the front. So I always establish what I want the front to look like before I even start pinning in the back. So I'm gonna just come in here and play with the front of her hair, smooth it out if I got a little too much teasing going on, and decide where I want my first little section to come back. So I see it in my mind. I'm gonna hold my fingers there, and I'm gonna use a hairpin, which is this open pin, as place markers for me. And these are just telling me, in my mind, it's literally like just like a, hey, pay attention, Karen. I want this first section to make sure it drops down into the bun like this. So I'm gonna take this hair. Now for any reason she had thick, heavy hair, I would rubber band it, but she does not, so we can just pin it. And I'm gonna gently push this hair like this. I'm gonna take one bobby pin and cross it this way, like so. And then I'm gonna take another and cross it the other way. Now, I can move these place markers because I know everything I wanted to come into this first section did. And so I'll fluff it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna spin her again and do the same thing. I am walking the hair to the bun in diagonal sections, one section at a time. So the first one, I took diagonal like this. The next one, I'm gonna carry back diagonal like this. The next one, I'm gonna take carried back diagonal like this until we get to the front hairline, which the front hairline will always drop just a little bit low and more effortless than everything else. How many sections you can take is determined on their head shape and how much hair they have. But I can visually see that I have another section right here that I can carry back. I'm gonna check it out from the front. Make sure it drapes the way I want it to. And then I'm going to place mark that. Now you can keep doing that as you work down. That's definitely an option. Or you can come back and do it one section at a time. I tend to like to work back and forth instead of like one whole section. So I'm gonna secure this one, which I'm actually only gonna use an open hairpin to secure this section into those other two bobby pins we just placed. And I'm gonna do the same thing. Now, if you didn't have time to curl her hair as much as I did, you can always do little twists in here. That's nice, and that gives a lot of texture and fluff it out. Okay, we're gonna go back to the front. Make sure the front's looking the way we want it. And then keep walking that down. Now I'm gonna start pulling some of these bottom hairs that we sectioned out as I start going further down the hairline. And so for this section, especially because it's pretty long, I am gonna do a twist here, and that will help secure all this hair together too. As my feet stick to the floor. I'm gonna pull this out and lay this across the top of the bun. I'm gonna use a real bobby pin to pin it. I'm gonna push this in. Okay, so let me try to show what I pin. So I know in this twist, for this whole twist to stay together, these are my two pieces, that this is the part of the twist I need to pin. So since it's the part I'm holding and I'm pulling across, that's the hair I need to get in between the bobby pin as I push it into the scalp. And that's not going anywhere. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing on this opposite side. I'm going to cut this diagonal section. Pick up some of this hair around here. Do the twist. If any hairs fall out like this, leave it. That just gives it, plays more into our effortless look. Like I said, whichever side you're holding so the twist doesn't fall apart, that is what you want to pin. So we're going to grab this, pin it into our foundation. Lock that one. This is what we're looking like so far. So pretty. Okay, so for right now, we're going to ignore the front sections. So I'm going to take all of this angle right here out. And then even, yeah, we'll do it like that. So I'm going to take this last little bit of hair we have down right here, and I'm just going to twist it. Do a little pinching and pulling. And pin it right here to the bottom of the bun and leave some hanging. I'm actually right at where the rubber band, that big rubber band we put in there is. And that's great because I know that this spot's going to stay super secure. Cross that. Same thing opposite. Okay, so like I said, we're going to ignore the sides for right now, and we're going to focus on building the last of this bun down here. So I like to kind of ignore this middle section at first and kind of move them out of my way. You can pin them out of your way. And then I like to start focusing down here at the bottom of the bun. So I'll do little twists like this throughout the hair and let any loose hairs fall. And just kind of pinch and pull on it. And like I said, we're leaving tails out. I'm gonna pin this in to the bun. And I kind of like to have some coming out at the bottom. I'll decide at the end how much I want to leave out. So then we kind of just have these pieces hanging, which is fine, but I visually don't love the way that looks. So I'm gonna make it better. And all of this is visual. So pay attention here, guys. I can't really use words to describe what it is that isn't looking right, but my eyes can see what isn't looking right. So I'll start with this area, for instance. This area of the hair is not in balance with the rest of the hair. It has kind of a hole right here. It's kind of tightly wound. It doesn't really look smooth and relaxed like the other areas, but you have to hyper focus on that. So let me see if I can zoom in. So this one spot doesn't look good, so I'm going to grab it. I did spray a little bit of that Big Sexy on it. And I'm just going to start pinching and pulling it towards me to give it a fluffier, more effortless look in this one little area. So now that I pulled this area looks a little too tightly wound and put together. So I'm going to pinch and pull on this area. If some pins come out a little bit, just push them back in and make sure they're like secured in the spot you move them to. So same thing right here. I see a little hole right here. I'm literally just going to pinch and pull. Love is in the details. And it is these little things that make your hairstyles look, especially effortless ones. They look messy and effortless, but they look polished and visually so pleasing and romantic. Okay, I'm gonna zoom you out. Oop, that was in. Okay, so now I don't like the way this piece comes out and comes here. I don't like seeing where the pieciness starts when it's coming out of a hairstyle. I think that's the best advice I can give you for leaving pieces hanging in a bun. So I'm not gonna take the whole piece, I'm gonna take a piece of the piece and I'm gonna loop it to come out somewhere else in the hairstyle to look a little more natural where it's coming from. So I think that this should come up into the twist maybe. Yeah, and come out through it. So I have got this topsy tailor thing on Amazon. And like I said, this is all visual. If you put it in there and you don't like it, just move it. So I'm gonna try it. I think going up would be the most flattering direction for this piece of hair to go, because I like how much texture that added to this little piece right here. And I'm just gonna keep playing and manipulating these little pieces until they're visually pleasing to me. So I have this little guy here. I don't like him. I don't know what he's doing. He doesn't belong in the bunch. So I'm just gonna take him, twist him, and tuck him in the back because I don't like him hanging out with our group. I'm gonna take this piece, I'm gonna split it up because I feel like it's a little thick. I like this piece right here, but I think this piece could use some work. So I'm gonna drop her down. Through the bottom of the bun. Lots of pinching, lots of pulling, lots of weaving. But like, look how good that looks now. We're gonna do the same thing with these pieces over here. So here's another example of just knowing visually that something isn't right. It's such a little thing, but it makes such a big difference. So I can kind of see your bobby pins. And also this kind of drops down a lot. So I want to take an open hairpin and I just want to lift some of this in like this, and I'm just going to push that right into the bun. I'm going to pinch pull a little. Look how much better that looks. Okay, so then I have this piece, same thing. I'm going to break it up, weave it through. I'm going to leave a little bit of it out. Decide what I want for the rest. This is another piece that I don't think we need. So I'm going to weave her down into this. Pretty. I'm going to spray her really good with this wax. Make sure all these frizzies get hit. And then I'm gonna weave in these side pieces. So same thing, I'm taking these at an angle. I'm deciding how much I want down in the front of her head. It just looks so good. Okay, I decide how much I want down around her hairline. I usually give girls the option to leave all this down if they want the effortless look, or Izzy's pieces are kind of short for this, but it is an option to softly pin to the side like this and then leave pieces down. Now the trick for picking your pieces around your hairline is where your hairline comes forward. So if I'm swooping this back and I need pieces from her hairline, don't take a big chunk right here in front of the ear. That's not cute. Doesn't look effortless. You want to kind of pick pieces from her hairline. So I'm gonna go around her hairline and start pulling on baby hairs. And I want to kind of avoid the part around the ear if I can. Like so. But we're going to leave her pieces. And I'm going to pick out my hairline. So I'm just going to kind of push and see what wants to come back with me. And honestly, that's how I choose. So I'm gonna wrap this and I'm gonna pin this up and forward towards the front of her hairline. So wherever I'm holding is where I'm gonna pin. I'm gonna push this up and into her hairline, and that's gonna make it stay. And now I'm gonna weave this other end in. You can lock that bobby pin in if you need to, but it's not 100% necessary. And I'm going to drop this one down, like so. Now this curl right here is just a little long for me, but I like having a curl in this place. So I'm just going to grab the curl halfway in and pin it up into the bun and let that curl sit just like that. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So now that I have everything pinned, this is probably the most important part, and it is your detail work. Pinching, pulling, and doing detail works on the hairstyle is gonna make all of the difference in how refined and well done it looks. So right now it's still looking it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's still just a little bit more messy than I personally like it. I want it a little more polished. Like, I love the undone look, but I want it undone well. I'm just gonna pinch and pull some more, especially on this bottom section. Kind of fluff her out, see what she wants to do. Like, she's hanging down a little too low. I'm gonna make sure she's nice and secure. I'm gonna mess with these little curls that are hanging, make sure all the curls are kind of where I want them to be. This little part's just a little lower than I want it to be. Okay, so once everything's kind of where I want it to be, it's really important in these effortless hairstyles that you don't overwork it, because there is a fine balance where if you get in there and you start manipulating it too much, it quits looking effortless and it kind of starts looking messy, because the more you touch on something, especially if you're spraying it, the more it's going to mess up. So I'm sure you've noticed I've used very little actual hairspray. I haven't used any actual hairspray yet. I've used the working spray, but that's about it. So now I'm going to clean up this hairstyle and go ahead and spray all the sprays to make it stay. First, the wax. And I'm going to spray the spray wax in the direction I want the hair to lay. And just kind of gently lay my hand over it, smooth it down, like so. Then I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to very gently lay it while this product's still wet, run it over the top to lay down any frizz. Now you also can do this with your shine spray, which really gives it a nice little set. If you don't need as much grip for the frizz to lay down and it's just like it needs that extra moisture, I'm using the Moroccan Oil Glimmer Shine. I'm gonna just give her a nice little spray. This stuff is so pretty. Just one more time. Give this area a nice little zhuzh for that separation so it doesn't look too pinned and put together. And a little messy.
That's amazing.
So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray her down real good. When it comes to the front of the hair, when I'm spraying their hair, of course I spray like this and lay it down in the back, but also I like to spray underneath the bang, especially if they're wearing a swoop, because it helps put a little barrier to protect against sweat. Let it dry and then drop it down. Add a little hair accessory.